All right, thanks, Chris. Thanks, everybody, for being here today. Certainly, obviously, a very exciting week for our program. Always is, each and every year, and even with the differences this year, and everything that has been different, you still can feel that sense of excitement and anticipation for this week. So we're certainly can't wait to get down to Dallas and go play. A very good Texas team, obviously. Different in some ways with a couple new coordinators on each side of the ball, but a lot of familiar faces as far as the players are concerned. So this is I've said it year in and year out, and never gets old, man. This game is always as fun as it gets, and we love having a chance to compete at it. It's one of the certainly one of the reasons when you decide to and get the chance to come coach at a place like Oklahoma, or from our players' standpoint, you get a chance to come play here. Part of that decision is knowing that you get to be a part of this game, and how fortunate we all are. It's easily the best rivalry game in college football, and again, even with some of the differences this year, as far as the game and all that's going on, it's still one that you can't wait for. You love to be able to coach in and compete in. So we're excited to do it. We've had a strong start to the week of practice. Team is really fighting hard. They are, and they've responded to us, to the things that we've put in front of them, the challenges to get better, and that's something that we've all had to do. Every single person in this program, myself, every staff member, every player, is find the areas that we need to improve, do the necessary things to get that done, and keep staying together. And so we'll look forward to having another great week of prep, and go down there and hopefully be ready to play our best game on Saturday.
Thank you, Coach. We'll take questions, and we'll begin with Jason Kersey of The Athletic, who will be followed by Ryan Aber.
Hey, Lincoln, you haven't had many quarterbacks who have experienced two losses this early in the season, certainly back-to-back losses. So I'm just wondering, how is Spencer handling this? And have you been impressed with the way he's handled it? And then secondly, how difficult is this game specifically for young?
I think he's handling it. Well. He's, we've tried to stay just really focused on, and I don't know if it's necessarily just with him, really the whole team. Let's really break this thing down to what it is, and the things that we're doing well, let's build on them. And he's doing many things very, very well, and honestly a little bit ahead in some of the areas that maybe a little bit further ahead than I would have guessed at this point. There's things that he can improve on, like every player on this football team, and we're trying to stay focused on what those things are. But as far as his emotional state, his psyche, confidence, all that, he's rock solid. He is. He's a competitor. He knows he belongs in that arena. Of course, he's going to continue to get better as the years go on. I mean, it's a great examples. Looking at the other sideline in this game. I think this will be the fourth different quarterback I've rolled out there with Sam on the other side. So it's and a ton of respect for him and the job that he's done to continue to improve over the years. So Spencer's doing well. He's given our football team chances to win. Now, does that mean that there's not areas he needs to improve? No, of course there's areas that he needs to improve, and we're going to need him to continue to take those steps. But he's I like the way he's playing. I like where his head's at, and we're going to keep pushing to get better and better.
Ryan Aber of the Oklahoman, and then Eric Bailey.
Yeah, Lincoln, through the first three games, penalties have been somewhat of an issue, really on both sides of the ball. Do you see a common thread through those, and how do you fix those things when it seems like they seem to come at really inopportune times?
Yeah, no, I think especially the last two games, I think there was definitely a difference. I thought in the Kansas State game, just a lot of mental errors as far as the penalties. We had some really just bad penalties, some dumb penalties, guys losing focus, guys not playing the level ball or as clean and with great technique like we expect them to. I was really, really disappointed in the penalties after that game. Obviously, there were some huge ones. I thought this game we were much cleaner. There was a couple of defensive holds in the backfield that we have to do better with that were unnecessary, and a lot of times we had the guys covered. I mean, that was the disappointing thing is, I mean, they were dead plays and lost our technique, panicked, whatever we want to call it, and gave them some easy ones. I thought several calls in the last game were incorrect, and so I thought we played honestly a lot cleaner game. We need to do a little bit better on the defensive holds. Other than that, certainly more clean against Iowa State than we were against Kansas State.
Appreciate it, Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Bailey with the Tulsa World, and then Joe Bettner.
And coaches usually do not want to weigh too much on any single game. But from a big picture standpoint, how important is Saturday not only for the balance of this season, but for seasons to come in terms of perception and recruiting?
Oh, this game's always is important. I mean, I don't know that it's any more or less important than it always is. I mean, it's an important game. It's an important game within our conference, regionally, on a national scene. So yeah, I mean, I don't know that you could. I think it always is important. I think it always matters. I think there's always kind of shockwaves from it. But I don't know that it's any more important than it's ever been. It's for a regular season game, I mean, it's about as good as you get, and it's about as good as you get every single year.
Thanks, Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Bettner with the Norman transcript, and then John Hoover.
Lincoln, it seems like the team that comes out more physical usually wins OU Texas, and I'm curious through 3 games where you feel like your team is at. I guess in terms of what physicality you can bring, throughout 4 quarters. How comfortable are you with that going into this game?
Oh, our potential. There's no doubt the potential's there, but we, like everything right now, we've got to do it more consistently. I think you see flashes of us being a really physical football team, and then there's flashes where we have not been. Our physicality has not been up to our standards. So I put that in the category of a lot of things for our football team right now. Some great flashes, a lot of potential, but the sooner we turn that potential into more consistent performances, then the sooner we're going to play the way that we want to play.
Go to John Hoover with SI Sooners, and then Barry Trammell.
Hey, Lincoln, having an experienced quarterback obviously is a luxury in college football, but it seems like this game really emphasizes that. The numbers, when you look at wins and losses, are really one-sided when one quarterback has played in this game and the other one hasn't. Why do you think that is specific or endemic to this game in particular?
Oh, just because probably the importance of it, the atmosphere, the intensity. It's hard to. It's one of those games, if you haven't been a part of it, we've said this before, it's hard to understand, what it feels like to play in this game. Now, this year's, there's definitely going to be some differences this year. I mean, I no way around it. It's still going to be a great football game. That's not going to stop that. But it's all that surrounds this game is obviously going to be toned down a great deal. So. But historically, yeah, I mean, there's so much that goes on around it, and the intensity of the game, the atmosphere of the game is so unlike anything else that would be my initial guess. And then I mean, normally, just I think in normal football, I don't think the statistics would be a whole lot different on that. I mean, it's normally when a quarterback's more experienced, not always, certainly not always, but there's certainly an advantage there. I mean, there's no question about it. It doesn't mean you win and lose solely because of that, but obviously it's a pretty important position.
Barry Trammell with the Oklahoman, and then Garrett Ebig.
Lincoln, after seeing the film from Ames, the tackling issue, you have any new thoughts on that? Have you guys been doing anything different? Is any of that related to the crazy off season we had? How do you explain the tackling problem Saturday night?
Yeah, I mean, big picture wise, looking at it from a comparison standpoint, because I do feel like certainly compare it to last year with a lot of the same guys. I thought we tackled very well early in the season. So, did the off season or all that have an impact on it? Maybe. right now, kind of in the moment for us. I mean, we've obviously been doing things to emphasize that, create more opportunities for our guys to get people on the ground and practice. And then I think a lot of it is just going back and correcting. And so much of what we see is not necessarily guys out of position, but guys, again, just kind of coming in out of control. And it's a fine line. I mean, you have to be a great tackler. I mean, you got to know when to have patience, and you got to know when to have aggression, because if you're too patient, guys will just go around you. But if you're too aggressive, like we were many times against Iowa State, a good player is gonna make you miss. And so we've got to be a little bit more patient. We got to be and trust our fundamentals more. And then like anything, when you're running like crazy to the ball, and if a guy misses a tackle, the second one's got to be there to make it right, because occasionally you're not going to get the guy down every single time the first time. And so we got to make up for any mistakes that we do have with crazy good effort.
Lincoln, more on that topic. You said Saturday night in Ames that guys were going for the big shot too often from the first look. Can you draw a line to the need to create turnovers when they're doing something like that? I know we keep peppering you with turnover plays.
Yeah.
But in that case, that seems to be an instance of this is where it's fundamentally hurting us. If that's what's if that's what's in your head first, and not making the short fundamental play instead.
Oh, it's a very fair point, and one that we've really been emphasizing with our guys. I don't doubt at all that there's some correlation there, and so that's no question about it. And you guys got to understand where the turnovers come from. Yeah, if you come in there just full speed, out of control every now and then, you end up putting your helmet on a ball and a ball pops out, and that's great, but I don't know that that's worth the number of missed tackles that you're probably going to have there too. So, a lot of times for contact, it's going to be the second guy, it's going to be the third guy. It's the job of the first one to get them wrapped up, and that's no doubt where we have to be better. And I think our emphasis on turnovers and our guys wanting to get them so bad, has that been a part of us being a little out of control? I think it's very fair to say.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Bob Brisbilla with Sooner Scoop, and then Cliff Brunt.
Yeah, Lincoln, when you have injuries, we always like to say the bye week came at a perfect time. When you've lost back-to-back games, playing a rivalry game like this, does that come at the perfect time? The natural assumption is focus isn't going to be a problem having a week like this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely a great way to look at it, and that's certainly how we're looking at it. I mean, I think when you've had some things not go your way, you've just got to be ready for the next challenge, and however it presents itself to you. So whether we were playing somebody else, playing Texas, or have a bye week, I mean, the way if you're not playing the way that you want to and not finishing games that you feel like you should finish, there's no magic pill. There's no easy way out of this. You've got to grind your way out of it, and you've got to work, and you've got to push, and you've got to stay together. And so again, whether that's playing Texas, whether that's playing somebody else in our conference, or whether that's a bye week, it's got to be a group that's going to attack the things that we know we need to improve. So, does it hurt that it's Texas? Sure, it doesn't hurt. I mean, that's great, but we would be ready regardless of what was happening this week.
Go to Cliff Brunt with AP, and then James Hale.
Yeah, Coach, you're obviously a guy who's had a lot of success with quarterbacks and appreciates great quarterback play. What stands out most to you about Sam Hellinger's evolution over the years that you've watched?
Yeah, he's an impressive kid. I've always been impressed with his toughness and his competitiveness, even from watching him play some as a young guy. I think he's improved as a thrower over the years. And then one of the most impressive things to me about Sam has been his durability. I mean, he's as physical as he's played the position, the way he's run with the ball, as many shots as he's taken and delivered over the years. To be able to stay on the field for the majority of those and stay healthy has been a big part, I think, of him being able to continue to improve. So no, we've had a lot of fun battles against him, and I have a ton of respect for the player he is and competitor he is, and so no, like I said, just all the respect in the world for him.
James Hale with KREF, and then Keegan Renault.
Lincoln, Coach Ash is the new DC at Texas this year. He's not new to college football, though. I'm curious what you see, what he's doing there, and is it similar to what he's done before, and what is Texas trying to accomplish on the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, no, he's done a good job. I mean, it's obviously a small sample size right now, but he's everybody in college football knows the kind of coordinator, that he is, the defensive mind he is, the success that he's had. Certainly wasn't a surprise to see that he was brought on there to Texas. They're early in their scheme. But he's got some really good players to work with. They're doing a good job. They're playing hard. Some talented kids across the board. And I think, like anybody, he's a good enough coach. He's going to continue to adapt it to the personnel that he has there. So, I have a lot of respect for him. I have for a lot of years. I've followed his career and the job he's done. And certainly was no surprise that Tom chose to bring him there to Austin.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Keegan Renault with Sooners Wire, and then Parker Thune.
Yeah, Lincoln, I know it's only been 3 games, but do you plan on still rotating both guys at left tackle, or is that just an in-game position battle? And then I'm just curious, you said yesterday that the offensive line can't just be okay or solid. How disappointing has it been that group that has a bunch of experience hasn't gotten there yet?
We'll evaluate that position and all the other positions week to week, and trying to make a decision about just what we think helps us win most that week. As far as the group there, I mean, again, they're kind of like our whole team. I mean, they've had some really good stretches, and they've done some good things. I mean, they really have. Everybody thinks, well, if you're not running the football well, or if you give up a sack, that all of a sudden, it's automatically on the offensive line. Well, no, it's not. We've had some of the times when we haven't ran it well this year. Backs have missed cuts. I've made some poor calls, poor decisions on my parts. Receivers have missed blocks. I mean, we've had, again, for us, it's just been, again, a lot of 9 and 10 man football, and same thing in the pass pro game and all of that. So I don't think they're any more or less to blame than anybody for any of the things that haven't gone our way. I do think there is a lot of positives and a lot of promise. But yeah, I mean, that's a position that we hold in just very high regard here, and we do have high expectations for them. And they've done a lot of good things, but can they play better? Yes, they can. And I know the guy we got coaching them will stop at nothing to get them to that point.
Parker Thune with SI Sooners, and then Kerry Murdoch.
Yeah, Coach Riley, it seems like Marvin Menzel has carved out a pretty significant role in the offense, just 3 games in his collegiate career. What can you say about his development, seeing as how he's come into his own so quickly?
Yeah, Marvin's doing well. He's done a great job. Very smart kid. Has been able to pick up our schemes and really play with very, very few mistakes, which I think for a true freshman is always one of the most important things. You obviously see he can really, really run. He's got sure hands, competitive kid, and then these moments that he's been in are certainly not too big with him or too big for him. I mean, he knows he belongs, and he's right at home out there. So, now an exciting young freshman that's got some. If he can stay healthy and continue to work, he's got some big things ahead of him.
Thanks, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
Kerry Murdoch with Sooner Scoop in WWLS, and then Michael Kinney.
Hey, Lincoln, you've taken 3 quarterbacks that have played this game for the first time. They've all been from the state of Texas. Grew up at this game in the backyard. I don't know, is there a little bit of relief in that Spencer didn't grow up with this, and maybe he doesn't understand, the gravity of this game in Oklahoma and Texas?
I think he understands. I think he does. He's been a part of this program long enough to understand that. That doesn't mean he grew up watching it as a kid, but I think he's got a firm, strong understanding of what this game's like and how fun it is, how important it is, how competitive it is. So I think he's. I don't have a concern about that with Spencer. I'll say that.
I know the atmosphere, will probably be a little bit different than it was for those 3 guys. But what did you learn from having first-time quarterbacks experience this that you can apply to
Well, I think it's two things. I mean, I think you have to be ready for the intensity, the competitiveness, the environment, all those things. You have to be mentally prepared for that because, no matter where you play, who you play for, this one is a little bit different that way. It just always is. And then I think the second thing is just staying in the moment. It's still, despite all that and how fun it is and all that, it is still a football game, and you still are going to play well by executing plays and by doing your job at that position and leading and staying in the moment and hanging in there through the ups and the downs. And so, I think you got to balance the understanding of what it is with also reality that it also is going to come down to just execution and playing great football.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Kinney was Sooner Spectator, and then Myron Patton. Let's go to Myron.
Yeah, Lincoln, when a lot of talk about the offensive line and everything else, but what about your running backs? How have they performed? And also, none of these guys that you're playing, they've never played this game. So just your thoughts on that going to this contest.
They've been okay. We expect more of those guys too. We have played with a little bit of it's been a little bit of musical chairs, in there a little bit. So, hopefully, I think TJ can, having him back now, kind of full go, help solidify the room. And we'll continue to bring those young guys along because we're certainly going to need them as well. But, yeah, I mean, there's some positives, there's promise, but then there's also, some key mistakes that we need them to shore up. So, again, it's a lot like, I mean, our whole football team, I mean, you literally could go down the roster and it's going to be a very, very similar answer. Promise, doing some really good things, but a lot that we got to clean up and a lot that we have to improve on, and that position's certainly no different.
Time for a few more. Let's go back to Barry Trammell.
Yeah, Lincoln, we talked about the atmosphere on Saturday, but do you really have any idea what the atmosphere is going to be like? I mean, the fairgrounds are going to be empty when you get there. There's going to be 1/4 of the fans when you run out on the field, all those things. Do you have a clue on what this game's actually going to feel like on Saturday?
It will be interesting. I mean, just the bus ride in is always one of the, other than the game, is one of the coolest parts of this. And to pull into the fairgrounds without anybody there will be a little eerie, I think, honestly, for those of us that have been able to experience that. As far as the game atmosphere, it will be interesting, in that it's neutral, and so we've been on the road with whatever 25% there. We've obviously been at home with 25% there. Now you're going to be somewhere where it's going to be, whatever, 12.5% apiece. So it'll be different. I mean, there's no doubt, and that's just 2020 right now, I guess. So I think the quality of the game and the intensity and all that will be very, very similar. But yeah, the atmosphere, it'll be different and probably more different than any other game that we play all year because of the neutral combined with just the 25% capacity.
Back to Eric Bailey.
Hey, Lincoln, you faced Mike Yurcich's offense while he was at Oklahoma State. Do you see a lot of similarities with what he's doing at Texas and what he did at OSU?
Yeah, definitely. No, there's definitely some similarities, and honestly, a lot of what they were doing before. There's certainly some carryover. I mean, there wasn't just a ton of differences. There's some key differences, but not. It's not like going in there and they're just doing something so radically different from what they've done offensively in the past. So. But no, yeah, we got a chance to obviously compete against Mike several years, and before he ran up to Ohio State for a couple of years. But he's really, really good coach. Was always able to produce some really good offenses there at Oklahoma State, develop some really good players, and he's done here early into his time here at Texas, has done a good job with this group.
James Hale.
Lincoln, you talked a lot about when you recruited the young freshmen that you had, the Washingtons, DJ Graham and Eden Ellison, that you liked their physical being, how big they were, length and things like that. They also went through COVID, some kind of, COVID, where they were out for a couple of weeks. And now I'm just curious, have you been able to ramp them back up? You expect you can use them here if you need them soon?
Yeah, we think we're getting close. With honestly, there's a number of guys at a number of positions that you hoped would be able to help you by now, and in a normal year, I think would be helping us right now. Several of those guys, like you said, knocked out with COVID for 10, 14, 28 days, and it that combined with the off season being a little different, and those guys that were here in spring missing all spring ball. I mean, there's just the development for those guys has been different, and so there's certainly a lot of talent there. We're pushing like crazy to get those guys ready to play, because you got to take that talent. It's still got to be able to run the calls and execute and go do it. And so I certainly think we're getting closer, and those guys are getting better and giving us more and more reason to want to put them on the field.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll go back and we'll try Michael Kinney again with Sooner Spectator.
Coach, can you just talk about the weekly preparation you have to go through while dealing with COVID-19? How has that changed throughout the process, throughout these last 2-3 weeks?
Yeah, no, it's definitely changed a lot. I mean, again, just your roster availability, seems to change daily. And then even as something as, you may have a guy that has a cold, normally would never even think about missing, a guy with a cold missing a practice, and then, out of abundance and have to get guys tested for COVID and all that, it certainly does change. And then kind of the same changes that you had during the season or during the preseason that continue to affect us of, the way you practice, the way you in practice, who you get in the locker room, who you don't. I mean, there's, who you expose to who. There's just a lot more to it than there's ever been. And no question the season has brought about some different challenges that I think by now I feel like we've adapted to. But again, you don't ever really feel like you have this thing beat. I mean, you can go have 6 weeks worth of negative tests, everything going great, and then one test, one exposure can be just almost like a grenade going off within the program, because it can affect so many people. So we're trying to keep our guard up, trying to continue to find any holes or any leaks in what we're doing, and you just got to stay committed to it. You can't take your foot off the gas. You can't relax for 1 second with it, or it'll bite you.
And we'll go back to Joe Bettner with the Norman transcript with our last question.
Lincoln, it seemed like Saturday night you pretty much had a full, I guess, the 2 deep. I'm curious, health-wise, I know you're not getting into specifics, but numbers-wise, are you guys pretty good as far as injuries go, and other than the ones that obviously you reported back in August?
Yeah, no, we're not. I mean, we're not close to a full 2 deep, and haven't even been close at any point this year. I think we're doing a pretty good job handling the COVID situation right now. A lot of guys getting some opportunities maybe earlier than we expected, or maybe even that they expected, and so we're growing with that. And so, listen, that's this year. You got to play with the guys you got, and you gotta get the guys that you have ready. And I think you have to control, what you can control, and not wonder about what ifs or this or that. Very simply, these are the guys you have. These are the guys you get ready, and you go out and you fight like hell and go play to win. And that's what we've got to do. That's what we've got to continue to do, and we're going to continue to fight like crazy and do that.